Michael left for a month-long road trip along the Pacific Coast Highway with his mistress. 30 days after he'd gone silent, I left his stroke survivor mother and returned to my parents' home in Chicago. When he finally walked through the door, giddy and sun-kissed, he found no trace of me. Instead, he found his mother cold and unresponsive in her bed. He froze, then collapsed in a torrent of sobs. My own hands were trembling as I gripped my phone. The dazzling photo on the screen felt like it was burning my eyes. It was Michael arm in arm with a younger woman in front of Bixby Bridge. They wore matching scarves, grinning like newlyweds, a sight that filled me with a blinding rage. "Ellie, I can't stand by and watch this anymore. Mike has gone too far this time." The text was from Leo, Michael's childhood best friend. He'd sent the photo a screenshot from another friend who had caught it on Instagram before it was hastily deleted. I took a deep breath and swiped up with a shaky finger. More photos appeared. An embrace as they watched the sunrise over the Grand Canyon. A kiss at a scenic overlook in Yosemite, standing side by side watching the sunset from a beach in Malibu. Each photo was a razor blade slicing into the softest parts of my heart. And today was the 30th day since I'd last heard from Michael. An entire month. I had called him over 100 times. My initial worry had morphed into anger, then to a gnawing suspicion, and now to this bottomless despair. His only communication had been a single text message 10 days ago. "Bad signal out here, don't worry." My husband on a romantic getaway with his mistress had the audacity to tell me not to worry. I turned my head to look towards the master bedroom, where my mother-in-law Helen lay. 3 years ago, a massive stroke had left her paralyzed on one side, and I had been her sole caregiver ever since. She was sleeping now, her breathing a low, steady rumble. For the past 3 years, I had given up my beloved career as a teacher and spun like a top every single day. I fed her, bathed her, massaged her limbs, and handled her incontinence. And what was Michael doing during that time? He was busy, he said. Whining and dining clients for a promotion. Traveling for work. Now I knew the truth. He was busy playing house with another woman. My phone buzzed again. A new text from Leo. "Ellie, I think he's starting the drive back tomorrow. It'll probably take him 3 or 4 days to get home. You should prepare yourself." Prepare myself? I let out a cold, humorless laugh and walked into the bathroom. I stared at my reflection in the mirror. At 30, the fine lines around my eyes were already impossible to hide. My skin, from years of sleepless nights caring for a patient, was dull and sallow. I was wearing a faded pair of pajamas I'd owned for 3 years. I remembered our wedding vows. Michael cupping my face in his hands, his voice thick with emotion. "Ellie, I'll spend my whole life making you happy." A montage of my sacrifices for this family flashed before my eyes. The tears finally came a hot, silent torrent. But they lasted only 3 seconds. I wiped them away fiercely. "He's not worth it." I walked out of the bathroom and began to pack. My movements were sharp and efficient, as if I were carrying out a long overdue mission. My wedding jewelry, my ID, and important documents. A few changes of clothes, my laptop, and the bank book for a secret account I'd been siphoning money into for 3 years, skimming from the household budget. "Ellie." Helen's weak voice called from the bedroom. I paused, then walked back to her room. "Yes, Helen, what is it?" My voice was so calm it startled even me. "Thirsty." Her eyes were hazy, her speech slurred. I poured her a glass of lukewarm water and helped her sit up, holding the glass to her lips as she took slow, careful sips. A little water trickled down her chin, and I wiped it away gently with a towel, just as I always did. "Any word from Michael?" she asked. A needle of pain pierced my heart. For the past month, every time she asked, I had made excuses. "He's on a business trip. The signal is bad. He's swamped with work." Like a fool, I had protected her son's image, preserving the illusion of a family that was already shattered. "He'll be home soon," I said, my voice devoid of emotion. "He's almost here." After she finished the water, I placed the cup on the nightstand and adjusted her position to make her more comfortable. And then I did something I hadn't done in 3 years. I gathered every spare key in the house. I sorted all of Helen's medications, placing them in plain sight on the nightstand. On each pill bottle, I taped a detailed set of instructions for dosage and timing. I filled the refrigerator with easy-to-heat pre-cooked meals. I wrote out instructions for using the microwave in large, bold letters and taped them to the fridge door. Next to it, I left a thick envelope of cash and a list of on-call home care nursing agencies. It was enough money to cover a private nurse for at least 2 weeks. With everything in place, I dragged my suitcase to the front door. I took one last look at the home where I had spent 7 years of my youth. Our wedding photo still hung on the living room wall. In it, I was smiling brightly, and Michael had his arm wrapped around my waist, his eyes full of affection. It was all a lie. I took out my phone and sent one last message to Michael. Hope you had fun. No need to rush back. Everything at home is fine. Then I blocked his number, his social media, everything. As I walked out of the condo building, the doorman, a kind man named George, looked at me with surprise. Miss Ellie. Going somewhere far? Yes, I replied, with a smile. Going to stay with my family for a while. The sunlight hit my face and I felt as if I were being born again. What about Mr. Michael and his mother? They'll be just fine, I said, cutting him off as I waved down a taxi. Penn Station, please. As the car pulled away, I leaned back and closed my eyes. You always like to disappear on me, Michael. This time, I'll be the one to vanish. I wonder what your face will look like when you come home reeking of the road and your mistress's perfume to find not your wife but only your paralyzed mother lying in bed. A strange sense of anticipation began to bubble inside me. The taxi merged into traffic, carrying me away from the prison that had held me for 7 years. The cityscape blurred past the window like my history with Michael, something not worth looking back on. My phone rang. It was my mother. Honey, are you on your way? Your father has your old room all cleaned up and I made your favorite pot roast. The tears came again, but this time they were warm. Mom, I'm in the car now. I'll be there soon. After hanging up, I looked out at the clear blue sky. 30 days, Michael. You enjoyed 30 days of freedom. Now, every day for the rest of my life will be for me. The Amtrak train sped away from the city. At over 100 miles per hour, the landscape outside the window slowly shifted from towering skyscrapers to vast fields and farmland. Leaning against the glass, I finally allowed myself to truly weep. Not for Michael, but for myself. For the naive woman who had devoted 7 years of her life, only to have it returned with betrayal. The woman in the seat next to me offered me a tissue. Are you all right, dear? Something terrible happened? No, I said, taking the tissue and wiping my eyes. Something wonderful. And it was true. Cutting out the poison, escaping a toxic relationship, what could be more wonderful than that? My phone buzzed incessantly. The group chat with our mutual friends was in an uproar. Apparently, Leo's screenshot had started making the rounds. A flood of messages poured in, some concerned, some gossiping, some fishing for details. I didn't reply to any of them. In the group chat with only my 2 best friends, I sent 3 words. I'm getting divorced. The chat exploded instantly. What happened? Did that bastard Michael finally show his true colors? Ellie, where are you? Are you safe? A warmth spread through my chest as I read their frantic messages. For 3 years, I had cut myself off from almost all social life, dedicating myself to Helen and Michael. I had almost forgotten that I had friends who genuinely cared about me. On an Amtrak, going to my parents. I'll tell you everything when we meet. I typed the message, then closed the app. I opened my mobile banking app to check the balance of that secret account. $22, 786.3. This was the money I had scraped together dollar by dollar over 3 years. Skimping on groceries, only buying necessities when they were on sale. I hadn't bought a new piece of clothing for myself in 2 years. My skincare routine consisted of the cheapest drugstore basics. Michael gave me $3,000 a month for household expenses. I always managed to save between $500 and $1,000 of it. At first, it was for Helen's potential medical emergencies, but over time it became my own escape fund. Looking at it now, I knew it was the smartest decision I had ever made. It was 7 p.m. when I arrived at Union Station in Chicago. As soon as I stepped onto the platform, I spotted my parents. It had been 3 years, and their hair was so much grayer. My mother was on her tiptoes scanning the crowd while my father held up a hand-drawn sign. Welcome home, our daughter Ellie. The words were written in a careful, almost childlike script. The tears welled up again. Dad, Mom, I ran towards them, dragging my suitcase behind me. My mom wrapped me in a fierce hug and my dad took my bag. Both of their eyes were red. You're home. That's all that matters. You're home, my mom whispered, stroking my face. You're so thin. You've suffered so much. In the car on the way home, I briefly explained Michael's affair and his month of silence. My dad slammed his hand on the steering wheel in anger while my mom held my hand, her grip warm and firm. You did the right thing, Dad seethed. That scum doesn't deserve you. We'll get a lawyer first thing. He won't get a penny. Let's just get you home to rest first, my mom said, always the calm, rational one. We can think about everything else tomorrow. When we got home, a feast was already laid out on the table. All my favorites, pot roast, mac and cheese, garlic green beans, and my mom's specialty beef and barley soup. Your brother is taking a day off from his grad program. He's coming tomorrow, Mom said as she served me a bowl of soup. My younger brother Jacob was 5 years my junior. The thought of seeing him warmed my heart again. After dinner, my mom helped me settle into my old room. It was exactly as I had left it before I got married. My parents had preserved it like a time capsule. Is this all you brought? Mom frowned, looking at my single suitcase. It's all I need, I said, and I meant it. Everything in that New York condo was tainted with the stench of betrayal. Looking at it would only bring me pain. After a shower, I crawled into my old bed, and for the first time in a long time, I felt safe. It was the first night in 7 years I was spending in my real home. My phone rang again. An unknown number. I hesitated, then answered. Ellie, where the hell are you? It was Michael, his voice thick with fury. Why is my mother here all alone? Do you have any idea? I just drove for 3 days straight to get here. I walk in, and she's been starving for a whole day. A cold smile touched my lips. You got back sooner than I expected. Mr. Davis, I said, my voice unnervingly calm. You were off having the time of your life with your mistress in California for a month, and only now you're worried about your mother. The other end of the line went silent for a moment. How did you know? He stammered. How I know isn't important, I said, sitting up and leaning against the headboard. What's important is that for the last 3 years, I took care of your mother, like she was my own. Besides throwing a few dollars at the problem each month, what did you do? Now that I've decided to live my own life. Is there a problem? Ellie, are you insane? My mother is paralyzed. You can't just abandon her like that. This is attempted murder. His voice rose to a shout. I laughed. A genuine out-loud laugh. Mr. Davis, legally, I have no obligation to support your mother. Morally, I've done more than enough. In fact, which one of us is more reprehensible? The son who abandons his paralyzed mother to go on a month-long trip with his mistress, or me? You're impossible to talk to. Get back here now, he roared. Go back, I said coldly. Go back to see the cute pictures of you and your lover. To find the disgusting text messages on your phone. To see the expensive necklace. You bought her something far more expensive than my wedding ring. Silence on his end. It seemed Leo's information was quite accurate. Michael, I said, enunciating each syllable. We're done. I'll have my lawyer send over the divorce papers. And as for your mother, I left contact information for a nursing agency, and more than enough cash. You can figure it out. Wait, Ellie, just listen to me. Let me explain, his tone suddenly softened. It was a mistake with that girl. You're the one I love. She kept begging me to go on this trip I didn't even want to go. Didn't want to go. But you stayed for a month. Didn't want to go. But you were smiling so happily in every photo. Didn't want to go. So you ignored calls from your wife and your own mother. I cut him off. Michael, don't take me for an idiot. Then what about my mother? She's not doing well, he started shouting again. She's your mother, I said flatly. Don't try to dump your responsibility on me. I hung up and blocked his number. A few minutes later, my mother's phone rang. Her face hardened as she listened. Michael, my mother's voice was like ice. For 7 years, my daughter worked like a dog for your family. And this is how you repay her. Let me make this clear. From now on, Ellie has nothing to do with you. If you bother her again, I will call the police. After hanging up, my mom came into my room and sat on the edge of my bed, taking my hand. Don't you worry. Mom and Dad are here. I nodded, leaning my head on her shoulder. The moonlight streamed through the window, casting a silver glow on the floor. What was Michael doing now, pacing in that empty condo, or scrambling to take care of his paralyzed mother? The thought brought a strange, satisfying thrill. But it wasn't enough. Not nearly enough. 7 years of my youth, 3 years of grueling labor, all dismissed with a single, unapologetic phone call. Michael, this is only the beginning. For every tear you made me cry, I will make you pay 1,000 times over. The situation on Michael's end was even more dramatic than I'd imagined. The next morning, my phone was blowing up. Screenshots, voice messages, even short video clips from our mutual friends. It turned out that when Michael couldn't find me, he had a complete meltdown on our building's resident Facebook group. This is Michael Davis from Condo 8B. My wife, Ellie Davis, has irresponsibly run away from home, abandoning my paralyzed mother. Her actions are malicious and cruel. If anyone knows of her whereabouts, please contact me immediately. He even attached a photo of Helen looking frail and gaunt in her bed. The Facebook group erupted. Some offered sympathy, some were suspicious, but most remained silent. After all, I had lived in that building for 7 years, and everyone knew how I cared for Helen. I was the one who took her out in her wheelchair every day for some sun. I was the one who did all the grocery shopping and cooking. I was the one who rushed her to the emergency room alone in the middle of the night. Michael, on the other hand, was a ghost, leaving early, coming home late, always looking busy. Soon a neighbor I recognized couldn't stay silent any longer. Her username was Sunny Days Ahead, a woman named Patricia, who lived on the floor below us. At Michael Davis, Mr. Davis, with all due respect, that's not fair. Everyone in this building knows Ellie was a model daughter-in-law. You've been gone for a month, and now you come back and blame your wife. That doesn't seem right. Michael shot back immediately. At Sunny Days Ahead, Patricia, this is a private family matter. But no matter how devoted she was, you don't just abandon a paralyzed old woman. That's a crime. The word crime prompted another neighbor to jump in. And what do you call a son who leaves his elderly mother in his wife's care to go gallivanting around for a month? The group chat descended into chaos. Some defended me, others urged for reconciliation. Then Leo dropped a bomb. He said nothing, simply posting 3 photos. The first was Michael and the young woman Chloe, posing affectionately in front of Bixby Bridge. The second, the two of them embracing while watching a sunrise in Yosemite. The third was a screenshot of Michael's own Instagram post from 15 days prior. The caption was nauseatingly poetic. With you, this life has no regrets. Below it were dozens of likes and congratulatory comments from our mutual friends. The mood in the group shifted instantly. Wow. A road trip through California and the Southwest. Who's the girl? That's definitely not Ellie. Unbelievable, Michael. You're out having fun with your mistress while your wife is at home taking care of your mom. No wonder she left. Who could put up with that? Michael, in a panic, started frantically deleting his posts, but it was too late. The screenshots had already spread through our buildings group and even to the groups for the adjacent buildings. Leo sent me a private message. Ellie, I'm sorry. I just couldn't take it anymore. Thank you, I replied, and I meant it. Pictures like that were more effective than 1,000 words I could ever say. Just then, my brother Jacob arrived. He walked in the door and immediately pulled me into a tight hug. Ellie, you went through so much. His eyes were red. I never liked that guy. Always acted like he was king of the world. My parents nodded in agreement. Apparently, they had noticed Michael's coldness and my exhaustion during their visits over the past 3 years. But every time they asked, I had insisted everything was fine. I was such an idiot, I said with a bitter smile. You weren't an idiot, you were too kind, my mom said, stroking my hair. And being kind is not a crime. The ones who exploit your kindness are the criminals. After lunch, we held a family meeting. My dad had invited his old friend David Chen, a veteran divorce attorney. After hearing my story and reviewing the evidence Leo had provided, Mr. Chen adjusted his glasses. The situation is very much in our favor, he said. Michael engaged in an extramarital affair during the marriage, and we have clear evidence in the form of photos and social media records. Furthermore, he neglected his familial responsibilities for an extended period, shifting the entire burden of his mother's care onto you. These are all significant factors in a divorce proceeding. What about the assets? My dad asked, getting to the point. Marital assets are typically split 50/50, but given that Michael is the at-fault party, we can argue for a larger share for you. Mr. Chen turned to me. Ellie, is there anything specific you want? I thought for a moment. I want the condo. We had bought it after we got married. Although his parents provided the down payment, we had paid the mortgage jointly ever since. More importantly, it held 7 years of my life. Even though those memories were now painful, I wanted it back. Not to live in, but to sell. Every dollar would be compensation for my lost youth. Also, I added the household money he gave me for the past 3 years was almost entirely spent on his mother's medical and living expenses. I have detailed records. But the money he spent on his mistress was a misappropriation of marital funds. I want that back too. Mr. Chen's eyes lit up. Do you have proof? Yes. I opened a password-protected folder in my cloud storage and showed him. For the past 3 years, I had recorded every expense over $30. Helen's medication, nutritional supplements, caregiver fees. The money Michael gave me was never enough, and I had even dipped into my old savings to cover the costs. I had started the ledgers to prove to Michael that we were short on cash, but it became a habit. I never imagined it would become such a powerful weapon. Mr. Chen scrolled through the spreadsheets. This is incredibly detailed. It's more than enough. As for the money he spent on his mistress, we'll need more direct evidence. I have it. I said. My family looked at me in surprise. I opened another folder. Inside were screenshots of all of Michael's credit card statements and online shopping histories for the last 6 months. He had probably forgotten that I had set up all those accounts for him years ago. He never changed the passwords. The spending history was damning. Expensive women's necklaces, designer handbags, luxury cosmetics, bookings at high-end hotels, and then there it was, a payment to a women's health clinic for an abortion procedure dated 3 months ago. This, Mr. Chen's brow furrowed. If an abortion is involved, this becomes much more serious. Looking at the record, my heart turned to ice. While I was at home bathing his mother, massaging her limbs, and cleaning up after her, he was out doting on another woman, even taking her to get an abortion. The irony was suffocating. Ellie. Jacob looked at me with a complicated expression. Did you know about this? No, I shook my head. I just had a habit of backing everything up. I used to be afraid of losing my phone. Now it's my armor. Mr. Chen packed up his files, promising to draft the divorce petition as quickly as possible. After he left, my mom took my hand. Ellie, if you need to cry, just cry. Don't hold it in. I shook my head. Mom, I've cried all my tears. Really? The night I found the photos on the train last night, my tears had run dry. My heart had hardened. Just then, my phone rang. Another unknown number. I hesitated, then answered. Ellie, you're a real piece of work. It was Michael, his voice hoarse and exhausted. Do you know my mother is in the hospital because of you? This is all your fault. My heart sank, but I quickly regained my composure. Michael, your mother is in the hospital because you neglected her for a month, not because I was gone for 3 days, I said calmly. Send me the hospital address. I'll visit. But this will be the last time. Don't pretend to care. If you hadn't run off, she wouldn't have ended up like this. If you hadn't gone to California with your mistress, if you hadn't been unreachable for a month, if you had fulfilled your duties as a son and a husband, I said, enunciating every word, none of this would have happened. Michael, you brought this all on yourself. I heard a crash and a yell on the other end before the line went dead. I stood there, phone in hand, trembling. Ellie, are you okay? Jacob asked, his face full of worry. I'm fine. I took a deep breath. Jacob, can you find out which city hospital has an inpatient named Helen Davis? She would have been admitted today. 30 minutes later, we had the location. She was in the geriatric ward, admitted for dehydration, malnutrition, and an infection from bed sores. I bought a bouquet of flowers and a fruit basket and went to the hospital with my parents and brother. As we stood outside her room, we could hear Michael's voice. Mom, don't worry. I'll find Ellie. I won't let her get away with what she did to you. Then we heard Helen's voice, faint but clear. Michael, don't blame Ellie. It's my fault. My eyes suddenly burned. The moment I opened the door, Michael spun around. His eyes were bloodshot. He looked terrible. His face was covered in stubble, his clothes were wrinkled, the polished elite professional was gone. And Helen, lying in the bed, looked like a skeleton. An IV was taped to her arm, her face a pale, waxy yellow. Ellie. A flicker of light entered Helen's hazy eyes when she saw me. I placed the flowers and fruit on the nightstand and took her hand. Helen, I'm so sorry. I'm so late. What are you doing here? Michael lunged at me, trying to drag me away, but Jacob stepped between us. Mr. Davis, this is a hospital, my father said in a low, warning voice. Michael looked at my dad, then at my brother, blocking his path, and finally backed down, though his eyes still looked like he wanted to kill me. Helen, please take care of yourself. Don't worry about the hospital bills, I said softly. But this is really the last time. From now on, your son will take care of you. Tears streamed down Helen's cheeks. She squeezed my hand tightly. Ellie, Michael was wrong. He was so wrong to you. I know everything. I don't blame you. She had known. All along. My heart felt like it was being squeezed, but it hardened just as quickly. Pity was one thing, but I could no longer be tied to this family. Ma'am, I changed my form of address. Please get well soon. I let go of her hand and turned to leave. Ellie, you stop right there, Michael roared from behind me. You think you can just walk away? Not a chance. I didn't look back. I walked out of the room and down the hall. In the corridor, my mom put her arm around my shoulder. You did good, Ellie. You've done more than enough. Yes, I had done more than enough. From now on, the battle would be fought not in a hospital room, but in a courtroom. Michael, let's start settling our accounts. Slowly. The mood in the car on the way home was heavy. That poor woman, Helen, my mom sighed. To have a son like that. My dad shook his head as he drove. I met Michael a few times when he was younger. He seemed like such a polite kid. I don't know how he turned out like this. People change, I said, leaning my head against the window, watching the world rush by. Michael hadn't always been like this. When we were dating, he once drove across town just to buy me my favorite cake. For my first birthday after we got married, he threw me a surprise party. Even when Helen first had her stroke, he had teared up and said, "Ellie, I don't know what I'd do without you." When did it change? It was probably after his promotion. From team lead to director. The client dinners became more frequent. He came home later and later. His attitude towards me grew sharper. He said I was disconnected from the world because I stayed at home. He said all I knew how to do was take care of an old woman. He said he was embarrassed to be seen with me because I always looked so tired. I thought it was my fault. That I wasn't good enough. So I tried harder. I took better care of Helen, learned new recipes, tried to dress up and wear makeup. But now I know, it wasn't that I was lacking. It was that he had changed. "What are you thinking about, sis?" Jacob asked from the back seat. "I'm just wondering when all of this will finally be over," I said. "It'll be over soon," he said, patting my shoulder. "Mr. Chen is a shark. He'll take care of it." That evening, Mr. Chen sent over the draft of the divorce petition. The terms were extremely favorable to me. The condo would be mine, I would receive 70% of the marital assets, and Michael would have to pay additional damages for emotional distress. "Michael won't sign this easily," Mr. Chen said over the phone. "He might try to drag it out or file a countersuit. Ellie, you need to be prepared for a fight." "I am," I said, looking out at the night sky. "Mr. Chen, can you add one more clause? I want Michael to pay a lump sum of $120,000 to compensate for Helen's medical and caregiving expenses over the last 3 years. I have detailed records." "Understood," Mr. Chen said after a brief pause. "Ellie, you're much stronger than I thought." After the call, I sat at my desk and began organizing all the evidence. Photos, text logs, spending records, medical receipts. Each item, each entry, felt like I was piecing together the broken fragments of my 7-year marriage. At 2 a.m., my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Ellie, this is Chloe, Michael's girlfriend. Can we talk?" I stared at the message for a full minute, then dialed the number. She picked up immediately. A young woman's voice, tentative and probing. "Chloe, what do you want to talk about?" My voice was as still as a frozen lake. I know what I did was wrong." Her voice trembled slightly. "But I'm pregnant. It's Michael's. Please, can you just give him a break? We need the money." I laughed. I actually laughed out loud. "Chloe, first of all, it's not me who won't give him a break. It's the law that doesn't forgive an adulterous spouse. Second, your pregnancy is a matter between you and Michael. It has nothing to do with me. Third, if you need money, you should be asking the father of your child, not his ex-wife. But Michael said if you insist on taking the condo, he won't even have money to pay for my doctor's appointments." Her voice broke into a sob. "Ellie, we're both women. Please have some pity on me." "If I have pity on you," my voice turned to ice, "who's going to have pity on me? For the last 3 years, when I was cleaning up after a paralyzed old woman day in and day out, who had pity on me? When my husband disappeared for a month with his mistress, who had pity on me? Chloe, the moment you chose to become a mistress, you should have been prepared for this day." She was silent. Then suddenly her tone shifted. "Ellie, you should take the deal while you can. Michael told me he has dirt on you too." Oh, I raised an eyebrow. "What dirt is that?" He said that miscarriage you had 3 years ago wasn't an accident. He said you did it on purpose because you didn't want a baby to tie you down." Her voice grew sharp. "He said his mother can testify to it." The words hit me like a physical blow. For a moment I couldn't breathe. 3 years ago that summer I had been pregnant. But in the chaos of Helen's stroke and hospitalization, the exhaustion and extreme stress caused me to miscarry at 8 weeks. Michael was at the hospital with his mother. I went to the clinic alone, had the procedure alone. When he found out later, he was placid. "It's probably for the best," he'd said. "We can't afford a baby right now anyway." And now he was twisting that tragedy into this. "Chloe," my voice felt like it was coming from a great distance. "Tell Michael I'll see him in court. And tell him this too. If he wants a mud fight, I'm more than ready to get dirty." I hung up. My hand was shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. Outside, the night was pitch black. I sat in the darkness and for the first time felt a chill that went bone deep. I never knew a human heart could be so vile. 7 years of marriage could turn in an instant into two people holding knives at each other's throats. I opened my laptop and started writing a long letter. Not to Michael, but to the me who had lost a child 3 years ago. To my dearest Ellie, I know how much it hurt. Your body ached and your heart ached even more. But remember, it wasn't your fault. You did your best. You did your best to care for your mother-in-law, to hold this family together, to be a good wife and a good daughter-in-law. By the time I finished writing, my face was soaked with tears. The next morning, Jacob knocked and came into my room. He was shocked when he saw my swollen eyes. "Ellie, what's wrong?" I shook my head and briefly told him what happened last night. Jacob was so furious he punched the wall. "That bastard, Michael, I'm going to go have a talk with him." "Don't." I stopped him. "Violence won't solve anything. We'll do this by the book. But he's slandering you like that." "Let him," I said, wiping my tears. "A lie is a lie. It can't stand for long. I still have my medical records from 3 years ago. We can probably find the hospital's security footage. Does he think it's so easy to turn black into white?" I said it with confidence, but my heart was still heavy. Not with fear, but with a profound sense of disgust. Just then, my mother's phone rang. Her expression turned strange as she listened. "It's Michael's mother," she whispered, covering the receiver. "She wants to see you." Alone. 30 minutes later, I met Helen at a coffee shop near the hospital. She was in a wheelchair, wearing a hospital gown with a cardigan over it. She looked even more frail than yesterday. "Ellie," she said, handing me a worn manila envelope with a trembling hand. "Take this." Puzzled, I opened it. Inside was a bank book, a few credit cards, and a handwritten document. I unfolded the document and froze. It was a notarized statement. The date was from 3 years ago, 2 months after my miscarriage. It clearly stated, "I, Helen Davis, solemnly declare that my daughter-in-law, Ellie Davis's miscarriage 3 years ago was an accident. The direct cause was the extreme exhaustion she suffered due to my sudden stroke and hospitalization. My son, Michael Davis, and I feel a deep sense of guilt over this matter." Below the text were Helen's signature and seal, along with the signatures of 2 witnesses. "Helen, what is this?" I knew Michael was changing 3 years ago. Helen's eyes glistened with tears. "He blamed you for not being able to protect the baby. I told him it wasn't your fault, that it was my fault for making you work so hard. I prepared this back then just in case. I had 2 of my friends from the condo board act as witnesses." I clutched the yellowed paper, my hands shaking. "There's $150 0 inches that account. It's my life savings, my pension," Helen continued. "The pin for the cards is my birthday. Ellie, please take this money. Think of it as a small compensation from me." "Helen, I can't take this." "You must," she said, grabbing my hand. Her hand was cold, but her grip was surprisingly strong. "My dear, I am so sorry. For what Michael did for everything, I am so sorry. Use this money, hire the best lawyer, and divorce that boy cleanly. You are still so young. You have a long life ahead of you." I looked at her old wrinkled face, her sincere eyes, and the tears finally fell. "Thank you, Helen," I sobbed. "Don't call me that." "I don't deserve it," she said, shaking her head. "Ellie, there's something else I must tell you. I don't think that Chloe girl is the only one." I stiffened. Starting last year, I'd overhear him on the phone. The women's voices. "It wasn't always the same one," Helen said, closing her eyes in pain. "I tried to talk to him, but he wouldn't listen. He said I was old and senile. Ellie, you need to leave him. He's not worth it." I held the envelope, its weight feeling incredibly heavy. It wasn't just the money and the papers inside. It was the weight of my vindication of a long overdue understanding. "Thank you for telling me all this," I said quietly. "This evidence will be a great help to me." "I'm glad it can help," Helen said, wiping a tear. "Ellie, from now on, live a happy life. Find someone who truly cherishes you, have healthy children. Don't be like me, spending my whole life doting on one son only to end up—" She couldn't finish the sentence, but I knew what she meant. As I left the coffee shop, I glanced back. Helen was still sitting by the window. Her frail figure looked especially lonely in the sunlight. My heart was a tangled mess. I hated Michael for his betrayal and his vicious lies. But looking at his mother, I found it hard to hate her. She was a victim, too. A woman with an unfilial son facing a lonely old age. Back in the car, I opened the envelope and examined its contents more closely. Besides the bank book cards and the notarized statement, there was a small USB drive. When I got home, I plugged it into my computer. There was one audio file on it dated 3 months ago. I clicked play. Michael's voice filled the room. Chloe, don't worry. My mom is being taken care of by Ellie, so there's no problem. As soon as I get back from California, I'm telling her I want a divorce. Then a woman's voice. What about the condo? You promised you'd give it to me. Of course. The condo is ours. Ellie's just a housewife. No income, no savings. What judge is going to give it to her? Besides, I've got some dirt on her, you know. The audio cut off abruptly. I leaned back in my chair and took a deep breath. So you had it all planned out, Michael. Luckily for me, I wasn't completely unprepared either. I picked up my phone and sent a text to Mr. Chen. Mr. Chen, I have new evidence. Also, please add another item to the lawsuit claims. I want Michael to pay for my labor as a full-time caregiver for his mother for the past 3 years calculated at the market rate for a private nurse. If we were going to settle accounts, we were going to be thorough. Mr. Chen moved quickly. The day after receiving the new evidence, he filed the lawsuit. At the same time, he scanned Helen's notarized statement and sent it to all of our mutual friends. He also anonymously posted Michael's infidelity evidence, the photos and spending records all neatly arranged in chronological order, to the building's Facebook group and to an online forum popular with employees in Michael's industry. It was a perfect chain of evidence. Public opinion flipped overnight. The same neighbors who had accused me of abandoning a paralyzed old woman were now flooding my inbox with apologies. Ellie, I am so sorry. I didn't know the whole story. Michael Davis is not a man, he's a monster. Making his wife work like a slave at home while he's out cheating. We support you. Take that bastard for everything he's got. I even got a call from the HR department at Michael's company. They were discreet, but the message was clear. They were conducting a review of their executives' professional ethics, and Michael might be placed on temporary leave. And finally, Michael broke. On the 3rd day after the petition was served, I was at home organizing my old teaching certificates. Once the divorce was final, I wanted to get recertified and go back to teaching. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. My mom went to answer it, and I heard her sharp voice. What are you doing here? I walked to the entrance. Michael was standing outside. His eyes were bloodshot, his hair a mess. He was still wearing the same wrinkled clothes I'd seen him in at the hospital 3 days ago. Where's Ellie? I need to see her. He tried to push his way in, but Jacob blocked him. You're not welcome here. Jacob, who was over 6 feet tall, was an intimidating presence in the doorway. Move! This is between me and Ellie, Michael shouted. I stepped forward and looked at him calmly. What is it? When Michael saw me, his eyes filled with hatred. Ellie, you are a venomous bitch. You file a lawsuit. You spread that filth everywhere. Are you trying to kill me? Is any of that filth untrue? I countered. You cheated, that's a fact. You took your mistress on vacation, that's a fact. You abandoned your paralyzed mother with me, that's a fact. Michael, are you afraid of people talking about the things you actually did? He trembled with rage. Fine. You want to play it like that? I can play too. I told you I had dirt on you. You mean the lie about me deliberately having a miscarriage? I smiled. That's perfect. 'Cause I have a notarized statement your mother wrote 3 years ago with 2 witnesses saying it was an accident. Should I post it online right now and let people decide who's telling the truth? Michael's face went rigid. What? What statement? What did you do to my mother? I didn't do anything. Your mother felt a pang of conscience. I took out my phone and showed him the photo of the statement. Shall I read it to you? The finger. He pointed at me was shaking. What the hell do you want? Simple. I put my phone away. Sign the divorce papers. The condo and 70% of the assets are mine. You also pay the $120,000 compensation for medical expenses plus 3 years of caregiving fees. If you can't agree to that, I'll see you in court. In your dreams, he roared. My parents paid the down payment on that condo. You didn't contribute a dime. Why should it go to you? We paid the mortgage jointly after marriage and both our names are on the deed, I said coolly. Legally, it's marital property. The down payment can be treated as a loan from your parents, which can be deducted from your share. Michael, who clearly hadn't expected me to know the law, stared at me blankly for a few seconds before snarling. Then why do you get 70% of the assets? Because every single dollar you spent on your mistress was a malicious transfer of marital assets. I looked him straight in the eye. Michael, should I do the math for you? The necklace you bought Chloe was $3,800. The 12 hotel stays. That California trip must have cost at least $5,000. I have a claim to half of all of that. His face turned a mottled red and white. You investigated me. I didn't have to. It's all on your credit card statements, I said. Oh, and speaking of Chloe, she called me the other day. Said you couldn't give her the money you promised. Asked me to have pity on her. Michael looked like he had swallowed a fly. Do you know what I told her? I said with a smile. I told her that if she's pregnant with Michael Davis's child, she should be asking Michael Davis for money, not his ex-wife. You talked to her, Michael's voice cracked. She told me about the pregnancy herself, I shrugged. Oh, wait. Were you trying to hide it, Michael? You're really something else. On one hand, you have me taking care of your mother. On another, you're getting your mistress pregnant and then making her get an abortion. And on yet another, you're seeing other women. You're a master of time management. I said the words lightly, but each one was a knife twisting in his heart. He lunged at me, but Jacob shoved him back. Get out, Jacob growled. If you touch my sister again, I'll break your legs. Michael stumbled back against the wall, breathing heavily. His eyes, as he looked at me, were a mixture of rage, resentment, and a flicker of fear. What was he afraid of? Ellie, his voice suddenly dropped an eerie calm in it. You think you've won, don't you? I stared at him without a word. I told you it's not that simple. He straightened up, adjusting his collar. That statement from my mother, I'll just say you coerced her into writing it. Those spending records, business expenses, the photos, just a close friend, a bad camera angle. Fine, I laughed. Then what about the text messages with Chloe? Those explicit conversations, calling each other babe and honey. Was that also for business? His face changed again. Michael, stop struggling, I sighed. Let's end this amicably. Sign the papers and you can keep your job and start a new life. If this goes to court, all the evidence of your affair will be made public. At that point, forget about a promotion. You'll be lucky to keep your job at all. This was true. The multinational firm Michael worked for prized its executives' public image above all else. If a messy affair scandal broke, his career would be over. He knew it. Are you threatening me? He hissed. I'm just stating the facts, I said calmly. The choice is yours. Divorce with your dignity intact, or divorce in disgrace. You decide. He stared at me for a long time, his eyes burning with a look that could have eaten me alive. Finally, he took a deep breath. Fine. I'll sign. But I'm not giving you the condo. And the assets, 50%, max. Then I'll see you in court. I turned to close the door. Wait, he shouted. 60%. That's my final offer. I stopped and turned back. 70%. Not a penny less. Plus the $120,000 compensation. And the 3 years of caregiving fees. I looked up the market rate. It's about $5,000 a month. For 3 years, that's $180,000. So a total of $300,000. Are you crazy? He screamed. $300,000. Where am I supposed to get that kind of money? That's your problem, I said coldly. I'll give you 3 days. If I don't have a signed agreement and confirmation of the first payment in 3 days, we'll see each other in court. And by then, $300,000 won't be the only thing you lose. I slammed the door. I heard him kicking it and screaming in rage, but the noise soon faded. Jacob must have chased him off. I leaned against the door, my heart pounding. The composure I had just shown was all an act. This was the man I had shared a bed with for 7 years. How could I not be afraid of his rage, his threats? Ellie, are you okay? Jacob asked, his face etched with worry. I'm fine, I said, taking a deep breath. Just a little tired. My mom came and hugged me. Ellie, you were amazing just now. You can't show any weakness to a man like that. I know, I said, closing my eyes. Yes. I couldn't afford to be weak. Mercy to the enemy is cruelty to oneself. For the next 3 days, there was no word from Michael. I didn't push him. On the morning of the 4th day, I simply asked Mr. Chen to submit the additional evidence to the court. Helen's notarized statement, the text logs between Michael and Chloe, the records of his spending on his mistresses, and a detailed breakdown of the value of my caregiving labor over the past 3 years. Mr. Chen later told me the judge's expression while reading the file was something to behold. That afternoon, Michael called. I agree, he said, his voice weary. But I don't have $300 0 inches cash right now. Can I pay in installments? Fine, I said. You pay $150,000 upfront and the rest over the next 6 months. But the deed to the condo needs to be transferred immediately. Transferring the deed takes time. Then we sign a binding agreement first specifying the date. Michael, this is your last chance. There was a long silence on the other end. Finally, he said, "Fine. Let's meet tomorrow 9 a.m. outside City Hall." "Bring the agreement and the money," I reminded him. "I know." After hanging up, I let out a long sigh. It was finally ending. The next morning, I deliberately wore a new outfit, a tailored beige pantsuit. It made me look sharp and confident. I put on light makeup and tied my hair up in a high ponytail. The woman in the mirror looked like the self-assured Ellie of 7 years ago. "You look amazing, sis," Jacob said sincerely. "It's an important day," I smiled. "I need to look like I'm starting fresh." My parents insisted on coming with me. I didn't refuse. At a time like this, family support was everything. When we arrived at City Hall, Michael was already there. Standing beside him was a young woman, probably in her early 20s with a slight baby bump. It had to be Chloe. When she saw us, she instinctively hid behind Michael. "Brought the whole family, huh?" Michael sneered, looking from me to my parents and brother. "Looks like we both did," I said calmly. "Do you have the agreement?" He pulled a few documents from his briefcase. "Mr." Chen stepped forward, took them, and after a careful review nodded at me. "The money?" I asked. Michael reluctantly handed over a debit card. $150,000. "The PIN is—" "One moment." Mr. Chen interrupted. "We'll verify the balance right here." Michael's face tightened, but he walked with us to a nearby ATM and we confirmed the balance. It was exactly $150,000. "Sign," I said, handing him the agreement. He ground his teeth as he flipped through the pages, then scrawled his name on the final page. When it was my turn, the hand holding the pen trembled slightly. 7 years of marriage, countless days and nights were finally coming to an end with this signature. Ellie, my mom, gently patted my back. I took a deep breath and signed my name. The process inside was quick. When I held the official stamped divorce decree in my hand, it didn't feel real. "Congratulations. You're free," the clerk said with a small smile. As we stepped out of City Hall, the sun was shining brightly. Michael and Chloe were already gone. Before leaving, he had shot me a venomous glare but had said nothing. "Sis, let's go celebrate," Jacob said excitedly. "Okay," I smiled, nodding. "My treat." Just as we were about to leave, my phone rang. An unknown number. "Yes, is this Ellie Davis? This is the geriatric ward at City Hospital. Helen Davis's condition has become critical. She's asking to see you one last time." I froze. Helen was critical. "I'll be right there," I said. Hanging up, I told my family, "You guys go ahead to the restaurant. I need to go to the hospital." "I'll go with you," my mom said. "No, it's okay. I can go by myself." Some things you have to face alone. The familiar smell of antiseptic filled the hospital corridor. When I opened the door to her room, Helen was lying in bed, hooked up to even more tubes. The steady beep of the monitor filled the quiet room. A nurse saw me and said softly, "She's not doing well. She's been calling your name." We contacted Mr. Davis, but he said he was busy and would be late. His own mother was dying and he was busy. I suppressed a wave of disgust and walked to her bedside. "Helen," I called softly. She slowly opened her eyes. When she saw me, her hazy gaze brightened. "Ellie, you came." Her voice was a barely audible whisper. I took her hand. It was as cold as ice. "How are you feeling?" "It's over for me," she said with great effort. "Ellie, I'm so sorry." "For what Michael did." "I'm so sorry." "It's all in the past," I shook my head. "Helen, you just rest. You'll be okay." "No. I know my own body." She gasped for breath. "Ellie, there's something I have to tell you. I'm afraid if I wait, I won't be able to." Her expression was deadly serious. I instinctively straightened up. "What is it?" "The miscarriage." 3 years ago," she said, tears rolling from the corners of her eyes. "It wasn't an accident. Michael put something in the herbal medicine you were drinking." My mind went completely blank. A loud ringing filled my ears. What did you say?" "I saw him." Her voice trembled. "I saw him putting something in your medicine. When I asked what he was doing, he said it was a nutritional supplement from the doctor. But I didn't believe him. A few days later, you miscarried. And I knew." My hands began to shake uncontrollably. My entire body went cold. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I was scared, she began to sob. I was scared Michael would go to jail. He's my only son. Ellie, I am so sorry. I've regretted it every single day for 3 years. That's why I wrote the statement why I saved that money. I wanted to make it up to you. So that was it. The statement, the money, it wasn't because she knew about his affairs. It was because she knew a much darker secret. What was it? What did he put in it? I heard my own voice tremble. I don't know. But I saved the bottle. She laboriously lifted a hand and pointed to the bottom drawer of the nightstand. It's taped to the back of the drawer. I let go of her hand and with trembling fingers opened the drawer. I felt around and found a small pill bottle taped to the back panel. It was a plain white bottle with no label. There were still a few pills inside. I kept it all this time. Her voice was fading. I thought, if you ever decided to press charges, this could be your proof. Ellie, can you forgive me? I clutched the pill bottle. It felt like a hot coal in my palm. Forgive her. How could I forgive her? The woman who had hidden this truth for 3 years, watching me suffer and blame myself for losing my child. The woman who knew of her son's crime and said nothing. The woman who accepted my care for 3 years without ever speaking the truth. Helen, the name felt thick in my throat. You should rest. I'll go get the doctor. Ellie, she grabbed my hand, her grip surprisingly tight. Promise me. Promise me you won't send Michael to jail. He's a monster, but he's still my son. I looked into her eyes, full of desperate pleading. In the end, I said nothing. I just gently pulled my hand away. I walked out of the room and leaned against the wall, my body racked with tremors. The pill bottle felt like a branding iron in my hand. Miss Davis, are you okay? A nurse asked with concern. I'm fine, I answered mechanically. Nurse, how is the patient in 609? Not good, the nurse shook her head. Multiple organ failure. The family should prepare themselves. Prepare myself! I laughed. A tearless, hollow laugh. What was I supposed to prepare for? To accept that my husband was the murderer of my child. To accept that the mother-in-law I had cared for was his accomplice. My phone buzzed. A text from Michael. How's my mom? I have some business at City Hall. I'll be a little late. City Hall. The place he had just divorced me. I suddenly remembered the slight swell of Chloe's belly. Of course, his business was getting a marriage license with her. The knuckles of the hand holding my phone turned white. Ellie. A familiar voice. I looked up and saw Leo standing at the end of the hall holding a fruit basket. Leo, I wiped my eyes. What are you doing here? I heard about Helen. Just came to see how she's doing. He walked over, his eyes landing on my swollen face. What's wrong? Did Michael bother you again? No, I said, slipping the pill bottle into my pocket. He won't have the chance anymore. Leo sensed something was wrong, but didn't press. Well, if you need anything, you have to tell me. Don't keep it all inside, he said. Thank you, Leo, I said sincerely. For everything you've done these past few months. Hey, what are friends for? He patted my shoulder. We all saw what Michael was doing. He's not worth it. Just then, Michael came rushing down the hall with Chloe trailing behind him. How's my mom? He asked Leo, not even glancing at me. She's in there. It doesn't look good, Leo said. Michael pushed the door open and ran inside. Chloe hesitated for a moment before following him. Leo looked at me. Aren't you going in? No. I shook my head. I should go. Ellie, Leo called out. He seemed to want to say something but held back. Look, I feel like I have to tell you. Michael and Chloe got married today. At City Hall. I know, I said flatly. You know, I figured. I glanced towards the hospital room. Leo, do you think people really get punished for the terrible things they do? Leo was quiet for a moment. I think so, he said. Heaven and earth see everything. Yes, I whispered. Heaven and earth see everything. I left the hospital and went straight to the police station. The detective who took my statement was a middle-aged man named Detective Miller. After hearing my story, his expression grew grim. Miss Davis, what you're alleging is extremely serious. We'll need to have the contents of this pill bottle analyzed. If it contains an abortifacient and we can find evidence that your husband administered it to you, that would constitute aggravated assault. I have a witness, I said. My mother-in-law saw him do it. Detective Miller nodded. But you said the witness is in critical condition. We'll need to get her testimony as soon as possible. And are you sure you want to press charges? Once we open a case, you can't take it back? Yes. I'm sure, I said firmly. When I left the station, the sky was already dark. I looked up at the starless, cloud-covered sky. My phone rang. It was Michael. Ellie, what did you say to my mother? Why is she crying and saying she's sorry to me? His voice was laced with anger. I didn't say anything. I said calmly. But Michael, I have a question for you. 3 years ago, my miscarriage. Was it really an accident? The other end went silent. What? What are you talking about? I think you know exactly what I'm talking about, I said. Oh, by the way, I just came from the police station. I filed a report about my miscarriage 3 years ago. They said they're opening an investigation. Are you crazy? He yelled. Ellie, are you out of your mind? That was just my mother talking nonsense. She's old, she's confused. We'll find out if it was nonsense when the lab results for the pills come back, I said. Michael, do you know what the sentence is for causing a miscarriage through assault? You... He sputtered, breathing heavily. Ellie, what do you want? I want the truth to come out, I said, my voice hard as steel. I want the person responsible to be held accountable. And I want my child who never even had a chance to be born to rest in peace. Cut the crap, he shouted. That baby shouldn't have been born anyway. My mom had just had her stroke, our lives were a mess. How are we supposed to raise a kid? So you killed it with your own hands, my voice began to tremble. Michael, that was your child. Our child. It was my decision too. I have a right to decide whether or not to have a child, he ranted. But you don't have the right to decide what happens to my body, I finally broke, screaming into the phone. You don't have the right to take my child from me without my knowledge, Michael. You're not a human being. You're an animal. Say whatever you want, he said, sounding defeated. You have proof, the ravings of a senile old woman, I told you, Ellie. You can't touch me. I'll hire the best lawyers and I'll leave you with nothing. We'll see about that, I said and hung up. I was shaking all over. Then my phone rang again. It was the hospital. Miss Davis, Helen Davis, just passed away. She was calling your name until the very end. I stood there holding the phone, unable to move for a long time. Helen was gone. She had left, taking her secrets, her guilt, and her powerlessness with her. I didn't cry. I just felt a vast emptiness open up inside me. When I got home in a taxi, my parents and Jacob were waiting for me. They had already heard the news about Helen from Leo. Ellie, my mom came and held me. If you need to cry, just cry. I can't, I said robotically. Mom, did you know my miscarriage 3 years ago? Michael did it. What? My entire family was stunned. I briefly explained what had happened, including my visit to the police station. That animal, my dad's face turned crimson with rage. I'm going to go kill him right now. Dad, no, I stopped him. What good would that do? The judgment he deserves is from the law. But Helen is gone, Jacob said worriedly. The only witness is gone. Can you prove he gave you the pills with just the bottle? I don't know, I shook my head. But I'm going to see this through to the end. Even if I can't send him to prison, I'll make sure everyone knows what kind of man he really is. That night, I lay in bed, unable to sleep. Helen's face before she died, Michael's twisted expression, and the child I never got to meet, it all replayed in my mind. At 3 a.m., my phone screen lit up. A text from an unknown number. Ellie, it's Chloe. The police came and took Michael. They said it was for aggravated assault. Is it true? I stared at the message for a long time before replying. Yes, it's true. Because of what he did to you. There was a long pause. Then a reply. I'm pregnant too. 4 months. Ellie, what am I going to do? I closed my eyes. Protect yourself and the baby. Stay far away from Michael. He is not a good person. I typed. I know. But we just got married. She replied. Ellie, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. If I had known he was that kind of person, I never would have. It's not too late to know now, I cut her off. Leave him and start over. But the baby is innocent. I typed the words, then hesitated, before adding one more sentence. If you need help, you can contact me. I put the phone down and stared at the ceiling. I hated Michael. He had destroyed my marriage, killed my child, and trampled on 7 years of my devotion. But I couldn't hate an unborn child. I couldn't hate a woman who had been deceived into pregnancy. The next morning, the police called. Michael was denying everything. He claimed his mother was senile, and her words couldn't be trusted. With the only witness deceased and no fingerprints on the pill bottle, the evidence was insufficient. They had to release him. But the investigation is still open, Detective Miller said. If any new evidence comes to light, we can arrest him again at any time. I understand. Thank you, Detective. After hanging up, my heart was a mix of emotions. I was disappointed, but more than that, I felt a strange sense of liberation. Maybe this was fate. Michael would escape legal punishment, but he would have to live the rest of his life in the shadows, pointed at and scorned by everyone. Perhaps that was a greater punishment than prison. Just then, the doorbell rang. It was Chloe. Her eyes were puffy and swollen, and she was holding a suitcase. Ellie, she looked at me, her voice frightened. Can we talk? I looked at this young woman 7 or 8 years my junior, and at the slight curve of her belly. In the end, I stepped aside. Come in, I said. Chloe sat on our living room sofa, clutching a mug of warm water. Her fingers were trembling. Last night, the police raided his place and took Michael away, she said in a small voice, her head bowed. I was so scared I couldn't sleep. This morning when they released him, I followed him. I overheard them questioning him. Ellie, is it true what they said? Did he really poison your medicine? Instead of answering directly, I asked, do you believe he did? She was silent for a long time. I don't know, she finally said. When I first met him, he was so good to me. Generous, attentive. But what he did to you, it's monstrous. He'll do the same to you, I said flatly. Once the novelty wears off, once you start demanding he take responsibility, his true colors will show. Tears fell from Chloe's eyes. Ellie, he told me you two had fallen out of love. He said you were refusing to sign the divorce papers because of the money. He said his mother hated you. I believed him. I really did. The classic playbook of a scumbag. Paint yourself as the victim, to justify your affair. Now that you know the truth, what are you going to do? I asked. I don't know, she sobbed harder. I'm pregnant, we just got married, I quit my job. If my parents find out I was a mistress, they'll kill me. Watching her cry, I didn't feel much pity, but I didn't feel hatred either. She was a victim too, just a very unlikable one. How far along are you? I asked. 4 months, she said, stroking her belly. The doctor says the baby is very healthy. If you decide to keep it, you need to be prepared to be a single mother, I said bluntly. Michael can barely take care of himself right now. Even if he avoids prison, his reputation is ruined and he'll likely lose his job. Not to mention he owes me $300,000. Chloe froze. $300,000. It's stipulated in our divorce agreement. It's a debt he owes me. I took out a copy of the agreement and showed it to her. Since you are now legally his wife, you could be held jointly responsible for this debt. Her face went pale. I didn't know about any of this. Well, now you do. I put the agreement away. I'll give you 2 options. First, you file for divorce immediately. Cite marriage fraud and emotional distress. There's no physical abuse yet, but with Michael's temper, it's only a matter of time. That way you can get out quickly and avoid the debt. And the second option, wait until he's convicted and in prison, then file for divorce as his spouse. But that could take years, and in the meantime, his creditors will come after you, and you'll be jointly liable. She bit her lip, fresh tears welling in her eyes. I'll take the first option. But I don't have money for a lawyer. I can lend it to you. The words surprised me as much as they did her. Why was I helping her? She had destroyed my family and was carrying my ex-husband's child. Why? But seeing her helplessness, I was suddenly reminded of myself 3 years ago. I had been that helpless, that alone, and no one had reached out to me. You don't have to pay me back, I added. Just consider it me earning some good karma for myself. Chloe looked up, her eyes wide with disbelief. Ellie, you don't hate me. I do, I said honestly. But hating you doesn't make my life any better. And the baby in your belly is innocent. She began to cry again, this time a raw, broken sob. When she finally stopped, I handed her a tissue. Where are you staying now? A hotel, for now, she sniffled. I can't go home to my parents, and I can't go back to Michael's place. Stay here for a few days, I said. Once you've calmed down, you can decide what to do next. My mother and Jacob were not happy with this decision, but when I insisted, they said nothing more, simply preparing a guest room for Chloe. That evening, Chloe insisted on doing the dishes. Watching her stand awkwardly in the kitchen, I was reminded of myself 7 years ago. When I first got married, I too had tried so hard to be a good wife, a good daughter-in-law. Ellie, how did you and Michael meet? She asked as she washed the dishes. We were in the same class in college, I said, leaning against the doorframe. He was the student body president, and I was the head of the literary society. We got married right after graduation. Were there ever times when he was good to you? There were, I said, looking out at the night. For the first 2 years of our marriage, he was wonderful. He planned surprises, remembered every anniversary. When I was sick, he stayed up all night by my side. And then he got promoted. More client dinners, a wider social circle. I gave a bitter smile. I guess a housewife like me didn't fit into his new life. Chloe was quiet for a long time. When he first met me, she said he told me I was his soulmate, that he had never met anyone who understood him like I did. He said the same thing to me, I said flatly. Michael has a talent for making every woman believe she's the only one. Her hand slipped and a plate crashed to the floor. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. She frantically bent down to pick up the pieces. Don't use your hands, I stopped her. I'll get a broom and dustpan. You can't risk getting cut. After we cleaned up the mess, she said suddenly, Ellie, I've seen you before. I paused. In your condo complex, she said, her head bowed. One time Michael took me there to pick something up. You were downstairs pushing your mother-in-law's wheelchair in the sun. Watching you so patiently, wiping her mouth and adjusting her clothes. I thought to myself, if I were his wife, I could never do that. And that's why you kept seeing him, even though you knew he was married. He said he was getting a divorce soon. Her voice grew smaller. He said you were holding out for a bigger settlement. I believed him. Foolish but pitiable. Ellie, she looked up, her eyes puffy. If I could go back in time, I would never have done this. I swear. But we can't go back in time, I said. All we can do is move forward. Chloe stayed at our house for 3 days. During that time, Mr. Chen introduced us to a female divorce lawyer who specialized in cases like hers. She agreed to provide Chloe with pro bono legal counsel on the condition that Chloe testify as a witness and provide evidence of how Michael had deceived her. Won't this hurt your case? Chloe asked me. My testimony could affect your divorce settlement. My divorce is already final, I said, pointing to the decree on my desk. Now it's your turn. On the 4th day, Chloe moved into a temporary shelter arranged by her lawyer. Before she left, she bowed deeply to me. Ellie, thank you. I will never forget your kindness. Take care, I said, for the baby's sake. After she left, a sense of peace returned to the house. But I knew a bigger storm was coming. Sure enough, 2 days later, Michael showed up. This time he wasn't alone. His parents were with him, my former in-laws who had never truly accepted me. Ellie, get down here now, Michael screamed from the street below our apartment building. A crowd of neighbors started to gather. I walked out onto the balcony and looked down at the 3 of them. What is it? Where did you hide? Chloe. Michael pointed at me. She's my wife. What right do you have to take her? Chloe is an adult. She has the right to choose where she wants to be, I said calmly. And she told me she wants to divorce you. Bullshit, Michael's mother, my former mother-in-law, shrieked. You instigated this, didn't you? You conniving little fox. You couldn't have a baby yourself, so you can't stand to see anyone else have one. Her words were daggers, striking the most painful part of my heart. I gripped the railing, struggling to maintain my composure. Ma'am, you should have evidence before you make such accusations. Deep down, you know what your son did. What do I know? All I know is that a barren hen like you ended our family line, her voice rose. Now that we finally have a grandchild on the way, you have to interfere. How can you be so vicious? The crowd of onlookers grew larger, their whispers audible. Michael's father, usually a man of few words, finally spoke. Ellie, you were family once. Can't we handle this without making a scene? Just convince Chloe to come back. We'll let bygones be bygones. Bygones. I laughed. What exactly are you willing to let be a bygone? The 3 years I cared for a paralyzed woman? The fact that I endured your son's infidelity? Or the fact that I was drugged and forced to miscarry his child? A collective gasp rose from the crowd. What drug to miscarry? Michael did that? Oh my God, that's horrible. The Davis family's faces froze. What nonsense are you spouting? Michael tried to lunge forward, but the building's security guard held him back. Whether it's nonsense or not, the police have a record of it. I raised my voice for all to hear. Neighbors, 3 years ago, I miscarried at 8 weeks. I always thought it was an accident, but a few days ago I learned the truth. My wonderful husband here put an abortion pill in my herbal medicine. Lies, his mother screamed. Do you have proof? Your other daughter-in-law, my former mother-in-law, told me herself before she died, I said, looking straight at her. She even left me the pill bottle. Why did you not know that your son committed such a heinous crime? Her expression faltered. It was clear she hadn't known. And I continued. Not only did your son poison me, he cheated on me throughout our marriage, took his mistress on a month-long trip, while leaving his paralyzed mother and me at home. I have photos and credit card statements to prove all of it. The murmurs from the crowd grew louder. I can't believe Michael was that kind of person. He always seemed so polished. So he was doing all this behind her back. Poor Ellie. 3 years of caregiving, and this is what she gets. Michael's father's face turned ashen. He shot a furious look at his son, then turned and walked away without another word. His mother started to say something but wilted under the glare of the neighbors and hurried after her husband. In the end, Michael was left standing alone, a clown in the center of a ring of pointing fingers. Ellie, you are a vengeful witch, he seethed, but you just wait. I'm not done with you. I'll be waiting, I said calmly. But before that, you should probably figure out how you're going to pay back the $300,000 you owe me. The first installment of $100,000 is due next month. If you can't pay, I'll see you in court. I turned and went back inside, closing the balcony door. Through the glass, I could hear Michael's hysterical screaming and the jeers of the neighbors. I leaned against the door and slowly slid to the floor. My hands were shaking, my heart was racing. But I didn't cry. I felt purged. I had finally dragged all the ugly, dirty secrets out into the sunlight. Michael, from now on, you will never be able to deceive anyone with your lies again, because everyone has seen the real you. The video of the Davis family's public meltdown went viral that night on local community forums and the residents' Facebook group. The title was, Sensational. Shocking corporate director, drugs pregnant wife forces miscarriage. Abandons ailing mother for month-long tryst with mistress. The video clearly contrasted my calm statements from the balcony with the hysterical antics of the Davis family below. The crowd's gasp when I mentioned the abortion pill and my former mother-in-law's frozen expression were all captured in high definition. The public outcry was immediate and overwhelming. The same people who had once criticized me for abandoning an old woman were now my staunchest supporters. Is he even human, Ellie, you poor woman? 3 years of servitude for that kind of treatment. That scumbag Michael is a director at a major corporation. Which company is blind enough to hire him? Name the company. We need to boycott them. Someone did in fact find and post Michael's company information. The next morning, his company's official email and customer service lines were paralyzed by a flood of angry messages from netizens. Fire this human garbage, or we will boycott all your products. How can a man so morally bankrupt be an executive? Your company owes the public an explanation. Simultaneously, Chloe with her lawyer officially filed for divorce, citing marriage fraud and emotional breakdown. She also provided the media with screenshots of her text conversations with Michael, in which he explicitly stated that he was already divorced and his wife was just holding out for more money. This was like pouring gasoline on a fire. He cheated on his wife and his mistress. A new level of scumbag. This guy needs to be blacklisted everywhere. We support these two women in their fight for justice. Michael was socially executed. On the third day, the head of HR from his company called me personally. Her tone was extremely polite. Miss Davis, this is Miranda Shaw, Director of Human Resources at Oakhaven Corp. We are deeply sorry for the situation regarding Mr. Davis. The company has decided to suspend him and further action will be taken pending the results of our internal investigation. That's an internal matter for your company, I said coolly. I only hope you handle it fairly. Of course, Miss Shaw said quickly. And we were wondering. We would like to invite you to our company to give a talk about how professional women can balance work and family, and how to protect their rights when faced with injustice. We would of course offer a speaker's fee. I paused. They wanted to use my story for their corporate PR. I'm sorry, but I'm not interested at the moment, I declined. Yes, I understand, she said. Please let us know if you change your mind. Also, Mr. Davis has an outstanding corporate loan of about $200,000. We understand he also has a significant debt to you. If you wouldn't mind, could you keep us updated on the payment status? It would be a key factor in how the company proceeds. I understood. They were worried he would default on his debt to them and they were trying to protect their own interests. My financial settlement with Mr. Davis is bound by a legal agreement, I said. I can't share the specific progress, but if your company requires it, I can provide a copy of the agreement. That would be wonderful, miss. Shaw sounded as if she'd struck gold. Thank you, Miss Davis. We will be sure to handle this matter with the utmost seriousness. After hanging up, I let out a cold laugh. When the wall starts to crumble, everyone rushes in to push. Michael, are you finally getting a taste of what betrayal feels like? That afternoon, Mr. Chen brought good news. The court had officially accepted Chloe's divorce petition, and due to the evidence of significant fraud, was fast-tracking the case. Also, Mr. Chen said, adjusting his glasses, Mr. Davis's parents just contacted me. They want to pay the $300,000 on his behalf. My brow furrowed. Where would they get that kind of money? They sold their house in their hometown, Mr. Chen said. It seems they are desperate to save their son. I was silent. To be honest, $300,000 was not a small amount of money for me. With it, I could start a new life. I could even buy a small studio apartment. But to accept it, I would have to sign a non-prosecution agreement, dropping the criminal complaint about the abortion pill. Did that unborn child deserve to have its death go unpunished? I'll think about it, I said. Mr. Chen nodded. I understand. But they've only given you 3 days. After he left, I sat alone in my room, staring blankly at the sycamore tree outside my window. My mom came in with a plate of sliced apples. Ellie, I heard what Mr. Chen said, she said, sitting beside me. What are you thinking? I don't know, I said honestly. I want the money. But I feel so guilty towards the baby. My mom took my hand. Ellie, I know how much this hurts you. But have you thought about it? Even if you press charges, there's no guarantee he'll go to jail. The evidence is weak and the only witness is gone. It could end up being settled out of court anyway. I'm not telling you to forgive him, my mom said seriously. I just want you to think about what's best for you. What do you need most right now? A fresh start. And $300,000 would be a huge help. I lowered my head. Mom, if I take the money, doesn't that make me weak? Won't all the people who supported me think I sold out? Don't be silly, my mom stroked my hair. You don't live your life for other people. You live it for yourself. Whatever you decide, I'll support you. But think carefully about what's best for you. That night, I had a dream. A chubby baby boy was toddling towards me, calling out, Mama. I tried to hug him, but he was always just out of reach. Finally, he started to cry, fat tears rolling down his cheeks. I cried too. When I woke up, my pillow was soaked. The next morning, I called Mr. Chen. I told him I would accept their offer. On one condition. The money had to be paid in a single lump sum, and I would only sign the non-prosecution agreement after the full amount was in my account. A wise decision, Mr. Chen said. I'll handle it. 3 days later, $300,000 from Michael's parents was deposited into my account. At the same time, Miranda Shaw from Oakhaven Corp. contacted me again. The company had officially fired Michael. Because his severe ethical violations had caused irreparable damage to the company's image, they would be suing him for the $200,000 corporate loan. Mr. Davis is now destitute, Miss, Shaw said pointedly. The money from his parents' house all went to you. If the company sues him, he could be forced into bankruptcy. That's a matter between your company and him, I said. Of course, Miss Shaw paused. Miss Davis, actually, our company was very impressed with how you handled this situation. Have you ever considered working for us? We're currently hiring a corporate culture manager, and we think you would be a perfect fit. The offer was completely unexpected. I'll think about it, I said, not immediately refusing. Yes. We look forward to hearing from you. After hanging up, I looked at the $300,000 balance in my banking app, a hollow feeling in my chest. The money was here, but a part of my heart felt empty. That afternoon, I went to a memorial park, to the plaque for the child I never met. It was just a small plaque. There were no ashes, no photos. I placed a bouquet of white carnations in front of it. I'm sorry, little one, I whispered. Mommy couldn't get you justice. A breeze rustled the petals as if in reply. But I promise you, Mommy will live a full and happy life for both of us. I sat in front of the plaque for a long time, until the sun began to set. As I was leaving, I ran into someone unexpected. Chloe. She was alone, also holding a bouquet of flowers. We looked at each other a little awkwardly. Ellie, she spoke first. You're here, I nodded. And you, I just wanted to talk to the baby, she said, stroking her belly. To tell him his big sister will look after him. I looked at her slightly swollen belly, a pang in my heart. Ellie, she said suddenly. I'm leaving the city. Going south. My cousin runs a small factory there, and he's offered me a job. That sounds like a good idea, I said. A change of scenery, a fresh start. She hesitated. Ellie, that $300, 000. I heard Michael's parents sold their house to pay you. How did you know Michael called me screaming? He told me, she said with a bitter smile. He said it was all my fault. That I made him lose his job, made his parents sell their house, and brought him public shame. That's not your fault, I said. I know, she said, looking up, her eyes welling with tears. But I still feel guilty. Ellie, you could have sent him to prison, but you chose the money. I know, I said with a self-deprecating laugh. It seems spineless, doesn't it? No, she shook her head. It's smart. There was no guarantee you would win the case. Taking the money and starting a new life? That's the most practical choice. I looked at her a little surprised. This young, naive girl seemed to have grown up overnight. What are your plans now? I asked. I'm going to have the baby and raise her well, she said, stroking her belly. I'll tell her that her father wasn't a good man, but her mother will try her best to be a good one. If you ever need help, you can always contact me, I said. Thank you, Ellie, she said sincerely. You are the kindest person I have ever met. The kindest person. I wasn't so sure. All I knew was that after everything I had been through, I could never go back to being the naive, kind-hearted Ellie of the past. But maybe that wasn't such a bad thing. From the memorial park, I went to an office building downtown for an interview at Michael's old company. The interviewer was the HR director, Miranda Shaw. She was very warm and asked me many questions about women's rights in the workplace. Ellie, your story has been a great inspiration to our company, she said. We are launching a new care program for our female employees, and we need someone with your experience and insight. My experience isn't exactly a shining one, I said honestly. But it is incredibly valuable, Miranda said seriously. Your courage and wisdom can help more women avoid similar tragedies. In the end, I got the job. The salary was $5,000 a month, much more than I had ever made as a teacher. Can you start next Monday? Miranda asked. Yes, I can. Leaving the office building, I stood in the middle of the bustling street and took a deep breath. The air was a mix of car exhaust, street food, and the perfume of hurried passers-by. This was the smell of life. Complicated, sometimes suffocating, but full of endless possibilities. My phone rang. It was Jacob. Sis, I got into my first-choice grad school. The one in New York. That's amazing news. I was genuinely happy for him. Ellie, thank you. His voice turned serious. If it wasn't for what happened with you, I don't think I would have gotten my act together. I was just drifting. You taught me that you have to be able to protect yourself, and that you have to live for yourself. I held the phone, my eyes stinging. You silly boy. You did it with your own hard work. You have to be happy now, Ellie, he said. Really happy. Find someone who treats you right, have a beautiful, healthy baby. A scumbag like Michael doesn't deserve to make you sad for a single second more. I know, I smiled. I will be happy. After hanging up, I looked up at the sky. The setting sun bathed the entire city in a golden glow. 7 years of marriage, 3 months of turmoil. Finally, everything was falling into place. I had lost a child. I had lost my faith in love. I had lost 7 years of my youth, but I had gained $300, 000. I had gained a new career. I had gained the courage to start over. Most importantly, I had learned a lesson. Never sacrifice yourself for anyone. Never stake your happiness on someone else. I wonder how Michael is doing now. I don't know, and I don't care. I heard his parents sold their house and moved to the countryside. I heard he can't find a job and is struggling. I heard Chloe's divorce case is proceeding. I heard he might be facing bankruptcy, but none of that has anything to do with me anymore. From now on, he is him and I am me. 2 parallel lines that will never cross again. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Leo. Ellie, I heard you got a job at Michael's old company. News travels fast. Of course, I'm your #1 source, he laughed. Hey, there's an alumni gathering this weekend. You should come. Everyone's heard what happened and they all want to see you. I thought for a moment. Okay, I'll be there. It was time to see my old friends. And it was time to let everyone know Ellie was back. Not the sacrificial housewife, not the pitiful victim of a cheating husband, but the Ellie who had risen from the ashes. From now on, I would live only for myself. The alumni reunion was at a trendy new fusion restaurant. I intentionally arrived an hour early to catch up with a few close friends. But at the entrance, I ran into the one person I least wanted to see, Natalie, Michael's ex-girlfriend from college. They had dated for 2 years before she went abroad to study. She had always held a grudge against me for, in her eyes, stealing Michael away. At every reunion, she would find a way to take a subtle jab at me. Well, look who it is, Natalie said, decked out in designer clothes and flawless makeup. She looked me up and down. I heard you got divorced. Congratulations. Finally free from that lonely house. I looked at her calmly. Thanks. But you're a little late with the news. It's been over a month. A month? But Michael was posting pictures from his California trip last month, she said with feigned surprise. Don't tell me he went with another woman. The air around us went still. The few friends who had arrived early looked at us awkwardly. Natalie, stop it, said Mark, our class president, trying to intervene. Ellie, you're here early. Let's go inside. But Natalie wasn't finished. What did I say that was wrong? Michael went to California. I saw the pictures. The scenery was gorgeous, but the woman with him? I didn't recognize her. It definitely wasn't you, Ellie. I laughed. A real audible laugh. Natalie, you're so interested in Michael's life, you must still have feelings for him, I said leisurely. But unfortunately for you, he doesn't have time to think about you right now. He's a little busy with lawsuits. One divorce settlement, one corporate lawsuit. If he's not careful, he might even end up in jail. Natalie's face tightened. What are you talking about? You can find out for yourself if I'm lying. I stepped closer to her and lowered my voice. Oh, and for your information, Michael didn't just cheat. He also drugged me when I was pregnant to cause a miscarriage. If you still want a piece of that trash, I can give you his number. Natalie's face went white with rage. My friends around us gasped. Whispers erupted. What? He drugged her to cause a miscarriage. Michael did that. That's monstrous. Mark quickly pulled me inside. Ellie, don't engage with her. Come on, let's go talk. Inside the private room, my old friends crowded around me. Ellie, is what Natalie said true? Did Michael really cheat? We saw the Instagram pictures, but drugging you? What's that about? That's terrifying. I briefly explained what had happened, omitting some of the more painful details. Still, my friends were speechless with shock. How could Michael change so much, my old roommate? Sarah said, taking my hand. He was a bit arrogant in college, but I never thought he was capable of this. People change, I said. But it's all in the past. I'm okay now. That's right, the future is what matters, Mark said, raising his glass. To Ellie's new life, cheers. The mood finally lightened. Just then, Natalie walked in, her face still tense. She deliberately sat far away from me, but her eyes kept darting in my direction. Midway through the dinner, Natalie suddenly stood up, glass in hand, and walked over to me. Ellie, I'm sorry if I was a little harsh earlier, she said. But as an old friend, I just want to give you some advice. It's not easy for a divorced woman out there, especially someone your age with no career. Do you want me to help you find a job? My husband's company is looking for a cleaning lady. The room went silent again. Sarah couldn't hold back. Natalie, what is that supposed to mean? I don't mean anything by it, Natalie said with an innocent expression. I genuinely want to help Ellie. What's wrong with being a cleaning lady? It's an honest job. We can't expect her to live off her parents forever, can we? Looking at Natalie, I suddenly felt a wave of pity for her. A person who can only feel superior by putting others down must be so empty inside. That's very thoughtful of you, I said with a smile. But it's okay. I've already found a job, doing what Natalie raised an eyebrow. A cashier at a supermarket, a waitress, corporate culture manager, I said. At Oakhaven Corp. Salary is $5,000 a month, full benefits Monday to Friday. Natalie froze. Oakhaven was one of the most prestigious companies in the city, known for its excellent pay and benefits. How did you get a job there? She stammered in disbelief. The normal way. I interviewed, I said lightly. The director of HR felt my life experience gave me a valuable perspective for the new Women in the Workplace initiative they're launching. My friends looked at me with admiration. Ellie, that's amazing. Oakhaven Corp. I applied there and got rejected at the resume screening. Stage 5, $000 a month. I'm a software developer with 5 years of experience, and you make more than me. Natalie's face flushed. She forced a smile. Well, that's great. But a corporate culture manager, doesn't that involve a lot of writing? Are you any good at it? I seem to recall you almost failed our writing seminar in college. That was a long time ago, I said calmly. People grow, just like how you didn't know how to apply lipstick in college and now you're quite good at it. A few of the women giggled. Natalie, completely humiliated, put down her glass and was about to leave when the door flew open. An unexpected person walked in. It was Michael. He looked awful. Unshaven, bloodshot eyes, his suit wrinkled and stained. Everyone froze. Michael, what are you doing here? Mark stood up. I don't think you were invited. I invited myself, Michael said, his voice hoarse. His eyes were locked on me. Ellie, I need to talk to you. We have nothing to talk about, I said flatly. Nothing to talk about after you ruined my life, he suddenly exploded. I lost my job, I lost my home, I have nowhere to live. Are you happy now? My friends stared at me in shock. Michael, watch your mouth, Mark said, stepping in front of me. This is a reunion, not a place for you to cause a scene. A scene? I'm here to set the record straight. Michael shoved Mark aside and came towards the table. Do you all know what this woman did? She extorted $300,000 from my parents. They had to sell their house. My mother is in the hospital from the shock. My father disowned me. It's all because of her. The room buzzed. Ellie, is this true? What's this about $300,000? I stood up and faced Michael directly. That $300,000, your parents gave it to me voluntarily, as compensation for the crimes you committed. I have a signed agreement and bank transfer records. Michael, do you want me to pull them out and show everyone right now? What crimes? What did I do? He roared. Because I didn't want the baby. That's my right. I have a right to decide whether or not to have a child. You have the right to decide whether you want a child, but you don't have the right to poison my medicine. My voice rose to match his. You don't have the right to kill my child without my knowledge. The words landed like a bomb. What poisoned her? Michael, you... My friends stared at him, their expressions shifting from confusion to disgust. You're lying, Michael panicked. Do you have proof? Your mother told me herself right before she died, I said, each word a hammer blow. She even left me the pill bottle. Michael, should I call the police right now and have them come explain it to everyone? Michael's face turned a ghostly white. His lips trembled, but no words came out. And I continued that $300,000 wasn't just compensation for the miscarriage, it's money you owed me. 3 years of caregiving for your mother, at the market rate of $5,000 a month, comes to $180,000. The money you spent on your mistress, about $120,000, was marital property, and I'm entitled to half of it. In fact, even at $300,000, I'm still taking a loss. With every word I spoke, Michael's face grew paler. And another thing, I said, looking into his eyes. You're in this miserable situation now. Is it really my fault? Weren't you the one who cheated first? Weren't you the one who abandoned your paralyzed mother to go on vacation? Weren't you the one who poisoned your wife? Weren't you the one who lied to Chloe, telling her she was your one true love? Michael, you reap what you sow. You brought all of this on yourself. The room was deathly quiet. Everyone was looking at Michael with contempt. You people. Michael looked at his old friends at the disgust in their eyes, and he finally broke. Fine, I did it. So what? He screamed hysterically. That baby shouldn't have been born. My mom was sick. Our lives were a mess. How were we supposed to raise a kid? Ellie, do you think I wanted to do that? I had no choice. No choice. I laughed coldly. Then who forced you life? Then where did you find the time and money to go to California with your mistress? Where did you find the money to buy her designer bags? Where did you find the time to see all those other women? Michael, stop making excuse. You are selfish, shameless, and nothing but human garbage. Shut up, Michael screamed. Ellie, you just wait. I'm not done with you. He threw open the door and stormed out. A long silence hung in the room. Finally, Sarah started to clap. Then Mark. Then the others. The applause grew louder. Ellie, that was incredible. That's how you deal with trash like him. We're all on your side. I stood there, looking at these familiar faces, a warmth spreading through my chest. Justice existed. And good people were eventually rewarded. Thank you, everyone, I said, bowing deeply. Thank you for standing with me today. What are you talking about, Mark? Patted my shoulder. We're your friends. We'll always have your back. That night, the rest of the reunion was wonderful. We talked about our funny memories from college, our current lives, our future plans. No one mentioned Michael again as if he had never existed. As the party was winding down, Natalie hesitantly approached me. "Ellie," she said, her head bowed. "I'm sorry. I was just jealous. Jealous that Michael chose you over me. That's why I was always so awful to you." Looking at her, I realized I didn't hate her anymore. "It's all in the past," I said. "Do you really forgive me?" She looked up, her eyes watery. "There's nothing to forgive," I said honestly. "I just think holding on to the past is a waste of the present." She stared at me for a moment, then smiled. "You're right. Ellie, you've really changed. You're so strong." "Anyone who's been through hell learns to wear armor," I said. As I was leaving the restaurant, Mark called out to me. "Ellie, can I ask you something?" "What is it we're planning our 10-year reunion? And I was wondering if you'd join the planning committee," he said. "Your experience, your strength. I think you could be a real source of positive energy for our classmates. And the way you handled Michael earlier? That was amazing. We need someone like you." I smiled. "Okay, I'll do it." On the way home, I called my mom to check in. "Mom, I had a really great time tonight." "Oh, good." I'm so glad her voice was full of relief. "Oh, by the way, Ellie, I keep meaning to tell you. You remember my friend Jean's son, Dr. Park? He's a doctor. His mom heard about your divorce, and she was hoping you two could meet." "Mom," I cut her off. "I'm not interested in dating right now. I'm not pushing you. It's just, don't you think it's time to start a new life?" "I already have," I said, looking at the neon signs outside the car window. "But a new life doesn't have to include a man." "Mom, right now I want to focus on loving myself, on my career, and on enjoying my life. When I'm ready, then I'll think about it." My mom was quiet for a moment. "Okay, I respect your decision. You do what makes you happy. I'm always on your side." After hanging up, I leaned back in the taxi and let out a long sigh. Tonight, I had finally let it all go. The hatred for Michael, the obsession with the past, the fear of the future. From now on, I would live only for myself. My phone buzzed. A text from Chloe. "Ellie, my divorce just got finalized. The judge sided with me. Michael has to pay child support, but he says he has no money. It's okay, though. I can work. I can raise my daughter on my own. Thank you, Ellie. If it wasn't for you, I'd still be stuck in that mess." I replied, "Congratulations. Live a happy life." Putting my phone down, I looked out the window. The city lights were dazzling. Under each of those lights was a story. And my story was just beginning. The story of a 30-year-old divorcee. The story of a woman who lost a child and was reborn. The story of a woman who crawled out of hell and grew armor and wings. The taxi pulled up to my parents' apartment building. I got out and took a deep breath of the cool night air. I looked up. The sky was full of stars. Tomorrow was a new day, and I would live it even more brilliantly than today. Monday morning, I walked into the Oakhaven Corp, building in a new suit. Miranda Shaw was waiting for me at the entrance. "Ellie, welcome to the Oakhaven family." She gave me a tour of the office and introduced me to my new colleagues. Everyone was friendly. A few female employees even came up to me privately to say they had read my story online and admired my courage. "You stood up for all of us," a young woman named Lynn said. "That's how you have to deal with scumbags." My title was Corporate Culture Manager. My main role was to foster a positive internal culture with a special focus on the CARE program for female employees. Miranda said, "My experience gave me a unique understanding and passion for the role. Women make up 48% of our workforce, but only 22% of our senior management," she said, showing me the data. "We want to implement initiatives to improve the work environment for women to help more of them balance their lives and careers." Looking at the data, I suddenly felt that this job was incredibly meaningful. If I could help even one woman avoid the terrible path I had walked, if I could offer even a small bit of support to one woman in need, then the pain of the last few years would not have been in vain. My first project was a support program for working mothers. It involved offering flexible work schedules, setting up a lactation room in the office, and holding experience sharing sessions. I was in charge of planning the first session. The day of the event, the room was packed. Even some male employees attended. One of the guest speakers, a director named Susan, broke down in tears as she spoke about her experience with postpartum depression and workplace discrimination. "When I came back from maternity leave, my position was gone," she cried. "My boss told me, 'You have a kid now, you don't need to work so hard.' I wanted to quit. But I thought of my baby and I gritted my teeth and persevered. Many of the women in the audience had tears in their eyes. I handed her a tissue and took the microphone. I believe many of you here can relate to Susan's experience, I said. Women often face a double burden between work and family. But I want to say this is not our fault. It is the fault of a society that demands too much from us. Applause broke out. We started this program not to give you special treatment, but to create a more equitable environment, I continued. So that working mothers are not forced to choose between their jobs and their children, so that all women can bravely pursue their careers. The session was a huge success. Afterwards, several women came up to me and said it was the first time they had ever felt such support and understanding from the company. Miranda patted me on the shoulder. Ellie, you did a great job. We need more employees with your passion and empathy. That evening, I worked until 8 p.m. As I was leaving the building, I saw a familiar figure at the entrance. It was Leo. Leo, what are you doing here? I was in the neighborhood. Just wanted to see how you were doing. He handed me a warm cup of tea. How's the new job? It's good, I said, taking the tea. Thank you for everything. Don't mention it, he smiled. But really seeing you like this? I'm relieved. We walked slowly down the street. The early autumn night air was a little chilly, but the tea in my hands was warm. Ellie, Leo said suddenly. There's something I've wanted to tell you for a long time. I had a crush on you in college. I froze. But you were dating Michael, so I never said anything, he said, scratching his head, looking a little embarrassed. After you got married, I let it go. But now that you're single, I was wondering if maybe I could have a second chance. I looked at him. My friend of over a decade. The friend who had reached out to me when I was at my lowest. Leo, I know. You're not looking to date right now, he cut me off. I just wanted to let you know how I feel. No pressure. We can just start as friends. Slowly. If you're never ready, we can just be friends forever. That's fine too. A warmth spread through my chest. Thank you, Leo. For what? He smiled. Hey, a few of us are going hiking this weekend. To see the fall colors. You should come, just to clear your head. I thought for a moment. Okay. I'll go. Really, his eyes lit up. Great. It's a date. I mean, not a date. A plan. I'll pick you up at 8 a.m. on Saturday. After parting with Leo, I walked home alone. The streetlights stretched my shadow long behind me. I suddenly remembered a night long ago. A night just like this, when Michael had held my hand and promised to be good to me for the rest of our lives. A lifetime was so long and a promise was so fragile. I shook my head, pushing the memories away. The past was the past. What mattered was now and the future. The hike on Saturday was wonderful. The mountains were ablaze with autumn colors like an oil painting. My friends laughed and took photos, and for a while it felt like we were back in college without a care in the world. Leo was attentive, but not overbearing. On the way down, I twisted my ankle slightly. He immediately pulled out a first aid spray and insisted on carrying me on his back. No, I can walk, I quickly refused. Don't be stubborn, he said, crouching in front of me. Come on. What's wrong with giving an old friend a piggyback ride? In the end, I didn't let him carry me, but he supported me the rest of the way down, walking slowly and steadily. Leo, why are you still single? I asked suddenly. He paused, then smiled. Just busy with work, I guess. And I never really met anyone I clicked with. I'm sure there were plenty of women who liked you. There were a few, he said honestly. But it always felt like something was missing. I guess it's because there was always someone else in the back of my mind. I was silent. Ellie, he said, his voice suddenly serious. I know you're not ready to date. That's okay. I can wait. But I need you to promise me one thing. What is it? Promise me you'll love yourself, he said, looking into my eyes. Don't ever sacrifice yourself for anyone again. You deserve the best. My eyes stung. I nodded. After that, Leo often asked me out to dinner, to movies, to various events. We were like friends, but we both knew it was more than just friendship. I didn't refuse, but I didn't rush things either. I let it all unfold naturally. At work, I became more and more proficient. In addition to the Working Mothers program, I planned a series of leadership training sessions for women and workshops on preventing workplace harassment. They were all well received. 3 months later, I was promoted. I became the head of the corporate culture team. To celebrate, my boss, who was now a vice president, took me out to dinner. Ellie, did you know? Your projects have not only improved our company culture, They've also helped us attract a lot of talented female employees. Our female employee satisfaction score went up 15% last quarter. It was a team effort, I said modestly. Don't be so humble. You were the driving force, she said, raising her glass. To your rebirth. Cheers. Rebirth. The word made me pause, then smile. Yes, a rebirth. Crawling out from the ruins of a marriage, emerging from the crucible of pain, I was finally reborn. Before the end of the year, I received a text from Chloe. She had given birth to a daughter. 3.4 kilograms, very healthy. Ellie, I named her Grace, to remember the grace you showed me. Thank you for helping me when I was at my lowest. I sent her $500. Buy something Grace needs. Take care of yourself and the baby. You too, Ellie. You have to be happy. I looked at the picture of the tiny pink baby on my phone screen, my heart a mix of emotions. This child's father was Michael, the man who had taken my child from me. But the baby was innocent. You too, I texted back. I put my phone down and walked to the window. It was snowing outside, the first snow of the year. The snowflakes danced in the air, blanketing the world in white. My phone rang again. It was Leo. Ellie, it's snowing. Dress warm, don't catch a cold. I will. You too. Are you free tomorrow night? There's a new steakhouse that's supposed to be amazing. Okay, great. It's a date. A real one this time. I'll pick you up at 6. After hanging up, I watched the snow fall. I suddenly remembered a day long ago, a snowy day, just like this, when Michael had written, "I love you, Ellie," in the snow, and gotten down on one knee. The snow back then was so beautiful, so pure. The snow today was just as beautiful, but something was different. I was no longer the girl who believed in fairy tales. I was no longer the wife who would sacrifice everything for love. I was no longer the daughter-in-law who endured in silence. I am Ellie, 31 years old, divorced. I have lost a child, but I am still standing, living my life with my head held high. I have lost, but I have also gained. I lost a worthless man and gained the courage to start over. I lost a terrible marriage and found my true self. I lost a naive fantasy and gained a clear-eyed wisdom. Perhaps this is what it means to grow. To emerge from pain, to be reborn from the broken pieces. The snow fell harder outside, and I could hear the faint sound of children laughing in the distance. A new year was coming, and my new life was truly beginning. Ellie, dinner's ready, I heard my mom call from the living room. Coming, I took one last look out the window, then turned and walked towards the warm light. The snow would stop, the sky would clear, and I would keep moving forward. Without looking back,